All right, hello everyone. This is Dan from Dan's Astrology. I'm making this video on the morning of Monday, April 21st. And I have just received news that Pope Francis has passed away at the age of 88, right on the coming off the heels of a Easter in which he had a visit from Vice President J.D. Vance. There's a couple of things that I just wanted to make a note of. First of all, that this is, from an astrological perspective, there's an interesting correspondence with the fact that first of all, this is a double A rated chart for Pope Francis, meaning that we have an accurate birth time, and using a whole sign house system, this gives him a moon in Aquarius, conjunct Venus in Aquarius. Interestingly enough, yesterday I made a video about the Canadian federal election, and I was looking at Justin Trudeau's chart and making a observation that the resignation of Justin Trudeau's being a prime minister, obviously in response to the pressure and bullying from Donald Trump, about being the threats to make Canada the 51st state, belittling our prime minister by calling him the governor, things like that, inspired Trudeau to resign. And there's something about how America has just gone through its Pluto return, right? America's Pluto return has finished, and now we have a new phase of Pluto in Aquarius. And that Trudeau's Venus, there's something about the first decan of Aquarius, which is a Venus-ruled decan associated with the tarot card Five of Swords, which is the Lord of Defeat, and it's ruled by Venus. And it's the idea of a peaceful surrender, right? And so there's this kind of thing as that rather than Justin Trudeau being angered into battle against Donald Trump, he makes a peaceful surrender as Pluto transits his Venus in Aquarius. And there's something about the archetypal dynamic of Pluto in Aquarius transiting people who have Venus in Aquarius right now that you can see. I think there's something about the resonance of basically, if you look at the transit going on right now, where we have a T-square between the Sun in Taurus, Mars in Leo, and Pluto in Aquarius, we have a sort of the peaceful surrender that could be of leaders who resign, or leaders who step down, or leaders who pass away gently, that kind of thing. And if we also notice what's interesting about this, the sun being an indicator for kings or heroes or protagonists or leaders, if this is a double A rated birth chart, the Pope has the midheaven at 00 degrees Taurus. This meaning this T-square is angular to the Pope's midheaven, and Uranus there's a 5-degree orb with Uranus. This is still Pluto squaring his natal Uranus by only 2 degrees. But I think this is a good example. There's another thing to take in consideration around all of this is in the dynamic between, we just had a Mars retrograde, where Mars retrograded into Cancer, and then you can also see that this is where the Pope had his natal Pluto. So there's a kind of a Mars transiting a natal Pluto, Mars transiting a transiting Pluto, those kind of dynamics. But the other thing is that before this Mars retrograde period, we had another opposition between Mars and Pluto that timed up with the dramatic events around Luigi Mangione assassinating a CEO of a healthcare company in the United States. And so around the time of the death of the Pope, we are also the issue of things like capital punishment, and the issue around the controversial things like certain violent upheavals with Mars, the god of war, and Pluto standing for this kind of power and plutocracy and stuff like that. And there could be the flip side of this, which is the um, martyrdom, right? Or taking the people that are the people like Mangione, and there's an issue of him being sentenced and whether or not Mangione is going to be getting capital punishment or something like that, right? And there's this whole issue also around Easter, um, and Jesus Christ, and the whole idea of Jesus basically being a kind of a victim of imperialistic state violence or capital punishment, and that the whole messianic Christian archetype is very much playing off of the victimhood of Jesus at the hands of a amoral imperialistic kind of a godless, just power driven cult of domination by might makes right kind of thing, right? And so there's this kind of thing about this. I was interestingly just recently listening to some series of lectures from a guy named Rick Roderick, a philosopher who's not with us anymore, but he made a great series of videos in the 90s, which are available to watch on the internet. And Rick Roderick was talking about Michel Foucault, Discipline and Punish, and that Michel Foucault was saying that one of the reasons why we moved away from a disciplinary society, where they had these big spectacles of punishment and for the sake of the power structure, right, is that the crowd, the masses, may begin to sympathize with the victim, and that there is maybe a kind of a different read of the whole martyrdom archetype or the messianic archetype, is that there's something about how the church and the state, the Pope is supposed to be God's representative on earth, but then if it becomes the point where the representative on earth is just like a kind of a brutal dictator or an emperor or something like that, that doles out kind of arbitrary violence as capital punishment, and says he has a kind of absolutist monarchy to back him up, then this opens up the potential for the victim of that violence to become the messianic figure, to become a martyr that captures the imagination of the masses. And basically the only solution the Roman Empire has in that circumstance is to adopt Christianity as their own religion, to recuperate the revolutionary impulses of the sympathizing with the victim or the martyr, that kind of dynamic, right? And that, I mean, a lot of that I think also goes with the fact that I'm talking about Mars, this T square here, but don't forget about Neptune and Aries, and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we're going to be having, and the fact that this Aries into Pluto, the first decan of Aries is said to be like this kind of alpha and the omega kind of point of the zodiac chart. And it's not separate from this whole dynamic, because first of all, Mars rules Aries. So if you're looking, so you've got the domicile lord in this T square, and then there's also making a trine to Neptune with reception, so that Neptune is also in a sextile to Pluto. So it's not just a T square, but also a trine and a sextile with aspect with Neptune involved. So it seems like a pretty heavy dynamic. There could even be more things going on around this one, but I thought, I don't know. I may be being a bit of an opportunist by just kind of jumping on this in the morning as I've heard this or whatever, but I thought it was worth reflecting on anyways. I don't mean any disrespect to the Pope or the Catholic Church. I am aware that he was perhaps maybe critical of things like tarot and astrology, which I'm perhaps more invested in than Christianity at this point. But I still think that there's some kind of a I don't know. I'm more open to kind of a sort of interfaith friendliness than some other people that may be more judgmental against, you know, or maybe more opinion. I tend to be more. I have a more fluid and open. I like to approach these issues in a kind of curious, inquisitive kind of manner, rather than an inquisitor kind of manner. You know, or a matador, you would say, right? Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please support the channel. I'll be back with more as these events continue to unfold.